Welcome to a podcast about wealth and life. We all know that our finances play a big part in how we live our lives. In this podcast, the advisors from Foster and Motley share insights and information about investment and financial planning topics and how they connect to your life.
And now for something familiar, but that's also a little bit different. This is Foster and Motley's podcast about wealth and life, but in a shorter form. Financial planner Joe Patterson is with me, Patrice Sikora, to explain. So, Joe, what are we going to be covering in these condensed episodes?
Thanks, Patrice. First, I'll say we are very excited as a group to be back for another year. Podcasting last year was a year of learning, of trying new things. And in that vein, for 2022, we intend to keep talking about wealth and life. So for us, as a reminder, that means a little bit of planning, a little bit of investments, and a whole lot about how it connects back to real day-to-day life.
And we are still going to do the longer podcast too, correct?
Yeah. So last year, you hopefully heard some folks from the team, 2 at a time, typically talking about longer form topics, deeper dives into broad topics with the team. We'll still do those. Those will be part of the schedule for the year. But one thing we wanted to try out with the team was to do some more specific, shorter segments. Think quick hits on very timely, detailed topics, less than 10 minutes in length, just to give you some information that we think is important and or interesting to you, the listener.
All right. We're going to have some new people to introduce?
Yeah, so we had a core team of interested individuals last year who participated. Every one of those folks was a podcast rookie. And I know I can speak for myself. I had a great time doing it. I was nervous and didn't love hearing the sound of my voice recorded back. But I convinced, along with Betsy and some of the other folks on the team here, a few new faces to join the team. So you'll hear new voices this year. There's a lot of talented folks at the firm, and they deserve to be heard as well. So in addition to the core individuals you heard from last year, we're going to be bringing along a few new people, both from the investment and the financial planning teams, to join in on the fun this year.
So now you guys are going to be the senior, experienced podcasters in the crew, and you'll be able to bring them along.
That's right. And as I will tell them, thanks to modern technology and Patrice, you specifically, you'll sound a lot better than you think you will. And you do it a few times and frankly, you look forward to it. So as always, our goal is to get information out there that we think will be helpful. Maybe it'll spark a conversation with you and a loved one about something that wasn't on your mind previously that turns out it is something important and relevant in your lives.
Mm-hmm. Do you expect these to be more time-sensitive topics on these?
Yeah, that's a good question, Patrice. And that's the hope, is that when we prepare these longer discussions, there's a lot of thought that goes into the structure and the format and the information we deliver. And many of those topics you would kind of consider, let's say, bellwether type topics, that are relevant regardless of what's going on in the world. But the hope is that, when something interesting happens in the investment world, in the financial planning world, in the tax world, that's relevant and timely, we can deliver that information quickly to our listeners and get some value out there from it.
And as you say, we're going to have new members too, so they'll bring a new perspective of the different topics.
Yeah, it's time to add some new voices to the discussion. We've got a lot of great folks on the team, and we want our listeners to hear from more of us. So we're really excited that some people put up their hands this year who weren't able to do it last year, and look forward to hearing their thoughts and input this year.
Joe, are we planning to do 2 of the short ones a month and 1 of the long ones? Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, that's a great question, Patrice, and you got the answer spot on. So look to hear from the Foster and Motley team 3 times a month. Again, 2 will be these shorter, less than 10-minute topic-specific podcasts, and we will continue doing the longer form discussions with a couple members of the team. Also, last year we did, for the first time, bring in an outside guest. I think that was well received and well liked, and I know it's always great to hear from other professionals that we work with who know their work well, and we have the perspective of seeing them deliver it to our clients. So whenever there's a topic that makes sense to involve someone else outside the firm, we'll certainly look for opportunities to do that as well.
All right. Now, it's also fun to hear from listeners. So how can listeners get to you and share their thoughts on what they've heard?
Sure. Yeah. If you find an episode interesting or helpful, first, share it with a friend, share it with a loved one, share it with a coworker. We're always excited when new audiences hear about the work we do. Always good to go to our website, www.fosterandmotley.com/podcast. That will link you to past episodes that might be helpful as well. So, not only do we have a lot on the agenda for 2022, we covered a lot of ground last year. And as I said, most of those topics are probably still relevant today in your personal lives and in your financial planning world. So check us out on the website. And as always, reach out to someone on your team at the firm if you have questions or thoughts or input as to something you might want to hear in the future.
And also, you can follow this podcast that you're listening to right now to make sure you know when a new one is out there. And as Joe is saying, share it with friends, with loved ones, with colleagues. Impress them. You listen to podcasts, and this is a really good one to have in your repertoire. Joe, thanks a lot for your time. We'll be talking to you again, I'm sure, both on the short and the long form Foster and Motley podcasts. I'm Patrice Sikora, and let's talk again later.
Thank you for listening to Foster and Motley, a podcast about wealth and life. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information discussed and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Foster and Motley. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions regarding your financial planning and investments. Foster & Motley is not affiliated with any third-party providers. Any mention of a third-party provider does not imply an endorsement of that provider. If you decide to utilize a third-party provider, you do so at your own risk.